Hi everyone, Nathan here with ATC Cooling and Heating, and today we're going to look at mini-split applications for new home construction. Really, it's a case study, and specifically we're going to investigate if and how a ductless system is compatible with new home construction. Now, ductless systems are typically thought of as a high sidewall unit combined with an outdoor side discharge model. Kind of what I've drawn here. Inside the house you have a model up on the wall. Outside the house you have the condensing unit, the outdoor unit right there. Now, usually those are heat pumps, which means that they're capable of both heating and cooling the space. I've got a couple of pictures for you too, just so that you know what I'm talking about. Now, there are strengths and weaknesses for this sort of configuration for a ductless mini-split. First, a big strength is that nothing is more efficient than the sidewall model of mini-split. For example, the Mitsubishi FX series of sidewall models, they achieve SEER ratings as high as 30 or more. And that's unmatched by anything, except for perhaps some geothermal units. Indeed, these ratings are better than any other style of ductless unit, including the floor or cassette models. However, there's kind of a downside to these models. Sidewall units like these, well, they can be kind of unattractive on your wall. Now, my wife points this out every time I wax nostalgic about how efficient mini-splits are. And I rarely win that argument. That said, the industry has responded, and most ductless manufacturers now have a sort of designer series unit that are supposed to look more sleek. Here's a picture, show you what I mean. These are Mitsubishi EX models, and they're available in gloss black, gloss white, or silver. Now, judge for yourself, but really, I don't think anything hides the fact that you've got a big box on your wall. Something that's exacerbated in a new home, for example, because, well, there's no furniture, no decorations to break up the walls. You walk into a new home and bam, it's right there looking at you. Plus, the sleek models, they tend to be less efficient too, since they're shaped a little differently and they have less coil surface area. For example, the Mitsubishi EX models come in at about 17.5 SEER. Now, that's where new home construction discussions with mini-splits, they usually end right there. When building a new home, builders and homeowners alike vastly prefer an HVAC system that's hidden away, and the only thing visible is the supply vents and maybe a return grill. But there are other mini-split options, ones that take advantage of the ductless unit's strengths, but don't look ungainly. In fact, some of these models blend right in and you'd never even know they were there. Oftentimes, these other styles are really excellent choices for new houses. The first example or option is the ceiling cassette. In fact, we're currently installing ceiling cassettes in a new home. These one-way, or sometimes they're called easy-fit cassette models, are designed to fit between the joists, which makes them a really good application for a new home when the home is all open and you've got access to those joists. They tuck right up into the ceiling, and when completed, there's little to see outside of a grill. I've got a couple pictures for you, but I've tried to draw it out here too. You've got these joist spaces, which are each about 16 inches apart. The model, the ceiling cassette model, is just a little smaller than that and fits right inside those. And underneath, all you have is that grill. Now, for houses with a conventional HVAC system, the homeowner would end up with registers across the floor or the ceiling with a large return grill centrally located. But these ductless ceiling cassettes, they trade many registers for one fairly large register. Net versus a conventional system, there are fewer things to detract from the home's decor by using a ductless ceiling cassette unit. Here's a picture of the one-way cassette unit that we are currently in the midst of installing. Note the refrigerant lines and the drain lines that you see in this picture. They will all be invisible after the drywall is complete and the finishing grill assembly is installed. Service access for these units is from underneath, just removing the grill. In our example, we have 6 of these ceiling cassette units that are replacing what would have been 2 conventional systems. The homeowner doesn't really need to worry about access for ductwork and will have the benefit of 6 separate zones. Plus, the efficiency of these units is fabulous at about 21 SEER. On top of that, there's a benefit to the electrical system too. Ductless mini-splits do not need as much power to operate as conventional units, and there's no need for emergency electric backup heat either. They can operate very well down to about 5 degrees outside for some models, and for some other models, they do really well down to -5 or even below. So this could be the difference between a 200 amp panel and a 400 amp panel, a considerable cost savings as you're building a house. And if your home will feature solar panels, you will find that mini split systems are much easier to power too, with lower starting amperages required. Another mini split model or style to consider is the mini ducted unit. Some people call these pancake units because they're really quite flat. These are good solutions when you have several smaller rooms together that need conditioned air, and it just wouldn't make sense to install multiple separate cassette or wall units. We're using one of these units in the primary bedroom suite in the same house that we just talked about for the cassettes. Now here's our technician Colin, who is working on the installation. Again, electric draw is low on these units, and the 3 to 4 runs that you pull off of them, well, those are pretty easy to install. But perhaps the biggest reason to consider a ductless unit in your new home is the cost. Ductwork is fussy and it takes a fair amount of time to install, which just adds to the cost. Plus, zoning forced air systems can be complicated, and that can bump the cost overall too. And of course, 2 or 3 forced air units will never deliver the same degree of control possible from multiple ductless zones. Think 6 or 7 units like we're using in our new home. Ductless units, including sidewall or cassette models, go in really fast, and there's really no need for space for all of that ductwork, which means other trades, think plumbers and electricians, find them much easier to work around than a bunch of ductwork, and your home construction project will speed along quite nicely. Plus, they save money under operation too. For my customer, it was an easy decision to go ductless. So yes, ductless systems can make a lot of sense in a new home construction situation. Now, if you have any questions about ductless mini splits or really anything HVAC, leave us a message here or contact us on our website, which is atcservice.com. Thanks for watching. Hi everyone, Nathan here with ATC Cooling and Heating, and today we're going to look at mini split applications for new home construction. Really, it's a case study, and specifically we're going to investigate if and how a ductless system is compatible with new home construction. Now, ductless systems are typically thought of as a high sidewall unit combined with an outdoor side discharge model. Kind of what I've drawn here. Inside the house you have a model up on the wall. Outside the house you have the condensing unit, the outdoor unit right there. Now, usually those are heat pumps, which means that they're capable of both heating and cooling the space. I've got a couple of pictures for you too, just so that you know what I'm talking about. Now, there are strengths and weaknesses for this sort of configuration for a ductless mini split. First, a big strength is that nothing is more efficient than the sidewall model of mini split. For example, the Mitsubishi FX series of sidewall models,